The Kookaburra sits controversy, even outrage, continues. Last week, the federal court found that the flute solo in Men at Work's Down Under infringed the copyright of Larrikin Music Publishing, the current owners of the song Kookaburra Sits in the Old Gumtree. Blogs, letters to the editors, Facebook sites are full of angry fans and musos who feel that the ruling is just plain wrong, that the breach of copyright was insignificant, if not non-existent. And one person who wants to make sure that his position on this matter is clear is Warren Fahey, author, record producer, singer, and the founder of Larrikin Music in 1975. He sold Larrikin to the huge international publishing company Music Sales in 1988, before they bought the rights to the children's song. We'll have a word with Warren Fahey in a moment, but first let's remind ourselves what this controversy is all about. Let's hear a bit of Kookaburra. Then here's Men at Work's offending riff. Warren Fahey joins us now. Warren Fahey, good morning.
Morning, Fran.
Well, if you can hear it, maybe it's only just. It's a tough decision.
Oh, it's there. Believe me. Even Colin Hay agrees it's there.
Okay, it's there. What do you make of the reaction to the court ruling?
There's anger. Basically, from my perspective, they've certainly damaged the Larrikin brand. I actually started using Larrikin when it was hardly used. It was one of those words that was hanging around. I started in 1969 because I called my group the Larrikins, and they're still going. But to see Larrikin Music go down this path with Men at Work is a bit disturbing from my perspective as a musicologist, and it does smack, whichever way you look at it. It smacks of opportunistic greed, and that's the words that have come out of all these website forums where people are saying, let's boycott Larrikin Records. It's nothing to do with Larrikin Records, but let's take some action. So,
Just let me stop you there. Why do you say opportunistic greed? It smacks of that.
Well, can I give you an example, Fran, that's probably the best way to look at this song? The most recognised song in the world has to be Happy Birthday, okay? It was written by two kindergarten teachers in 1893 in America, right? They never claimed the copyright on it because they created it for children. It was called Good Morning to All, right? They published it as sheet music in 1912, still didn't have any copyright reference or publisher reference. Then, in 1935... a publisher came along called Summy Music and credited two new people who rewrote this as Happy Birthday to You, right? Mm-hmm. Jump to 1999 or 1990 when Warner Chappell, one of the biggest, if not the biggest music publishers in the world, paid $15 million to get the rights by buying Summy Music of this song, Happy Birthday, which, by the way, expires next year, right? $15 million. But everywhere it's gone up into court challenge by all the leading legal professors in America have said it won't stand water. Now, the same thing applies to Kookaburra in Australia. It is already in the public domain.
Except it did stand water in the courts in this case. I mean, the courts looked at the copyright rules, and if you've conceded yourself, it's there. It's there,
and Larrikin Music has every right to pursue that ownership, right? However, I think there's an emotional problem here. Because Kookaburra is already in the public domain, right, many people are disappointed. Many people feel their children should be able to sing it and whatever, wherever they like, and including choral groups and so forth. But being a published work, and now that the court has agreed that Larrikin Music has this right, has a lot of implications as far as copyright, so people will shy away from it. I personally think that the way around this is for Larrikin Music. It's part of a huge multinational company, very successful, and usually very, good about music and I guess have a love of music. But I think that they should now take some of the money from this court case, fine. They should probably retain the commercial exploitation of this if somebody wants to use it in a commercial or something, but they should gift the ditty, because that's all it is, to the nation. and we should have it on the same rights as, say, something like Happy Birthday, and they won't pursue the use of it.
The reaction to this decision in the courts has been very strong, and a whole lot of very high-profile Australian musicians have criticised it. Russell Morris, Brian Cadd, Roy O'Donoghue, Shane Howard, Joe Dolce, Stephen Tabbin. It goes on and on and on. People are pretty unhappy about it, but as we've agreed, Men at Work did take it. They knew they were taking it. They just didn't think there was anything wrong with it. In a way, is it ironic that a company called Larrikin Music has brought this case and won this case, because these songs down under, you couldn't think of perhaps a more sort of iconic Australian song as is Kookaburra Sits in the Old Gumtree.
Well, it's true, and they also publish some wonderful Australian iconic songs. They publish Eric Bogle. That's why they bought the company from me, because And the Band Played Waltzing Matilda is one of their titles. And they do a very efficient job as music publishers. But this is an emotional question in Australia, and if you talk to Gwenda Davey or June Factor, two of our leading experts in childhood development and children's folklore, they agree that this ditty has been parodied probably more times than any other song in Australia's history, which firmly places it in the public domain.
There's also an argument about whether this ditty is actually as originally Australian as we think it is. We got an email from one listener saying, John Tallant wrote, "Dear Fran, I'm sitting with a friend who was posted to the Australian Embassy in Pretoria in 1952, who tells him an Afrikaans folk song which has the same tune as Kookaburra Sits in the Old Gumtree and a similar theme. She wouldn't sing it for us, but she says the tune is the same. It translates as Turtle Dove sits in the old oak tree, sings a song of his life's dream, sing Turtle Dove sing in the oak tree." And there's also a Welsh version.
Which is a version of an English children's rhyme, which I've found.
Yeah, well, here's the Welsh version on YouTube. Let's have a listen. So what do you think? Perhaps Larrikin Music Sales doesn't own the copyright at all?
Look, they own the Marion Sinclair version. I mean, she's the one that wrote that little ditty that we know in Australia. She wrote that, but incidentally, she was alive when Men at Work put out the recording of this song, and she never objected. So that's why I said that a lot of people are looking as Larrikin Music using this as opportunistic greed, because it's just a little bit pushing it.
All right, Warren, thank you very much for joining us. That's Warren Fahey, who I think we lost somehow or other in the airwaves there. Warren Fahey, a musician, he's an author, he's a cultural historian, and he happens to be the former owner of Larrikin Records.